Hello, everybody. Glad to have you with us. I am going to kick things off over on our end. We're so excited to have you join us today for the Face-to-Face 2025 RFP info session. My name is Kim Olsen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the executive director of the roundtable. I'll pass it to my colleague actually, I'll give a visual description first, and then I'll toss it to my colleague. I am a pale-skinned white woman with lots of freckles on my face. I'm wearing my brown hair to my shoulders today, a little wavy. I have brown rimmed glasses, and I'm wearing a blue dress that has lots of faces of women on it. And I'm also have a virtual background of a piece of art drawn by a 6-year-old from South Brooklyn that was a part of Art Starts with the Arts campaign. Kinsey, I'll toss it to you.
Thanks, Kim. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Kinsey Keck. I use she, her pronouns. I am a white woman with brown hair as well. It goes just a little bit past my shoulders. It's down and straight today. And I am wearing a black strappy type top because I'm in Texas, calling in from Texas, and it's very, very hot here. I hope you're all taking care and staying cool wherever you are. And my background is blurred. And I think you can see on the screen as well, our colleague Alex Latorre, who is the operations manager here at the Roundtable. Alex can't join us today, but is a very important piece of the Roundtable, of course, but also the face-to-face process. So you'll probably see and hear from her often in the future as well.
Great. So let's go to our next slide. If you're new to the Roundtable, the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable is a grassroots service organization working to improve and advance arts education. We are a community of organizations and practitioners that shares information, provides professional development, and also communicates with the public to promote our work in schools and beyond. Our flagship event here at the Roundtable that has been with us for almost the entirety of our organization's history. We were founded in '92, and this has been happening since 1993, is the annual Face-to-Face conference that we are so excited to hear and have you join us today as we talk through the RFP for the 2025 conference. Let's go to the next slide. Just a little more about us too. Here's our values. That's continual learning and improvement through the exchange of ideas, skills, and knowledge, the mutual support and shared aspirations of our diverse community. And also we value the power of the arts to activate learning and change lives. So on the agenda today, you're going to hear a bit more about face-to-face. We are going to walk you through an RFP timeline and overview of what to expect. We'll then go into the application portal itself, Submittable, and walk through the application. We'll talk through the scoring rubric as well, and we'll also give space for a Q&A before we close. If you have questions that come up as we go along, I encourage you, feel free to put them in the chat, and we're going to hold any verbal questions till the end. However, we will collect those Q&A questions also via the chat as we go. We'll do our best to try to address them in the moment, but might save them to the end. Just some also housekeeping notes. As you can see, this call is being recorded. It will be shared. This recording will be shared directly with all registrants within, I would say, the week or so, and will also then be visible on our YouTube page and website as well. I will note our technology on the Roundtable side is being a little funky today, maybe a little ready for a vacation. So we just thank you in advance for your grace and patience if our Wi-Fi, for any reason, decides to take a pause. On that note, I will be taking care of myself, and I encourage you to take care of yourselves as well. Feel free to be on camera, off camera. If you need to step away, grab a snack or water, totally up to you. We are a you do you type of organization. Another support that we have in this space is the use of closed captioning, which you can access by clicking the captions button on your toolbar. If there's other ways that we can best support you as well, please do let us know. And I see a question already in the chat. Thanks, Francis. Question, will you forward the documents that accompany the instructions? And as Kinsey said, yes, our follow-up email will include a link not only to the recording, but also to the presentation that we shared today, which is linked with all relevant links that you might need for the RFP process. And so with that, Kinsey, take us away. Tell me about face-to-face.
My pleasure. Thank you, Kim. So yeah, we're going to talk just a little bit about the conference itself. While we're doing that, I'm going to launch a quick poll. Let me pull it up here just to kind of get a sense of who is in the room. So you should have a poll that just launched on your screen. If you can see it and answer, that's lovely. If you can't access it for some reason, feel free to, if you can't access the answering, you can put your answers in the chat. So the first question is just, have you attended face-to-face before? And then the second question is, have you presented at face-to-face before? So if you can take a moment, we're just kind of curious to see who has joined us today. And while we're doing that, I'd be happy to talk a little bit about the conference itself. So Face-to-Face 2025 coming up will be our 32nd annual conference, convening arts education practitioners for moments of learning, growth, and connection. Our presenters typically share best practices. They can discuss local, state, national, and international policies, address enduring issues such as quality assessment, sustainability, professional development, equity and inclusion, and art and social justice, although we're not limited only to those things. In terms of our conference audience, we typically see arts administrators and teaching artists and folks who do both of those things as our largest constituent groups. We also welcome school personnel, students, funders, representatives of community-based organizations, parents. We really run the gamut, but in particular, I think arts administrators, teaching artists, and folks who kind of do both of those things are our main attendees. And in terms of numbers, this last conference that took place in 2024, we had 665 total conference registrants, with over 480 of those folks joining us in person at one or both days of the conference. Just looking at my notes to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Yeah, admins, TAs, as we talked about. Yeah, also attendees really sort of span the art forms as well. We have folks who represent multiple art forms, folks who are just in theater, dance, and performing arts. We also have a lot of visual arts folks coming in, digital media as well. Kind of runs the gamut there too.
I would
Just
also say,
looking, yeah, go
Kinsey,
ahead.
also in adjacent fields, that we have some
Yeah,
folks that come to us presenting on topics that might not necessarily be inherent to arts education or showcase a specific artistry, but are enduring issues, whether it be related to assessment, HR, strategic planning. So we love to see the breadth and depth of the conference continue to grow each and every year, as it also serves not only emerging practitioners, but all the way up to seasoned practitioners that have been working in the field for 30, 40, 50 plus years as well.
thanks, Kim. I'm going to end our poll because we have pretty much everyone here now, and I can share the results. So very interesting that we have pretty even answer to number one. Folks, about half of the folks have attended face-to-face and half haven't. But most of the folks who are here, I see, have not presented at face-to-face before, although we do have some former presenters. So it's really helpful for us to know. I'm going to stop sharing those poll results and move forward. So this year's conference is happening again in April. We have conference dates set for April 7th to 17th, 2025. So our online dates will be that first week, April 7th to 11th. We'll have 6 or 7 virtual conference events that take place during that week. And then our in-person dates are confirmed for April 16th and 17th. That is during spring break for City College and many universities and schools across the city and state. This year's conference will take place again at Shepard Hall, which is at the City College of New York in Harlem. That's where the 2024 conference was as well. And we're excited to have them host us again this year. Alrighty, and then other important dates and information about the RFP process timeline. So the RFP is currently open. It opened on July 10th. You are at the RFP info session today on July 31st. Our application is open for quite some time. It will close on Thursday, September 26th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Eastern. Although in many previous application processes that the Roundtable has put out, we have tried to offer extensions for those. I want to make it clear that due to timing and a number of other applications that the Roundtable will have going on this year, we will not be able to offer an extension at all. So Thursday, September 26th is the hard and final deadline. So I highly recommend making sure that you take the time the day before to submit your application. That way, if you're having any trouble with Submittable or the platform, you will have ample time to reach out to us and get things moving before that 7 p.m. deadline, because once it hits, the application will go offline and we will not be able to accept any late applications whatsoever. Then we will go through our review process with our review committee, which we'll talk about a bit more. And the applicants who submitted proposals will be notified by Monday, December 16th, 2024 at the latest. Our accepted presenters will be required to go to a virtual orientation with us, a virtual presenter orientation. We only need one representative from each session, but those dates are Monday, January 13th from 4 to 6 and Wednesday the 15th from 10 to 12. So I would mark your calendars for that to try to hold one or both of those dates. If you are accepted as a presenter, we'll need you to attend one. If you have any questions or concerns about that, you can always email us and we can discuss other options. Okay, so we're going to go through some frequently asked questions, and I'm going to toss it to Kim to do number one.
Fabulous. So one of the first questions that we oftentimes get is why an RFP? And the reason for doing this is that we really want to invite in a variety of presenters and topics to be a part of the face-to-face conference. We are looking for sessions that are not only sort of those, we are really looking for sessions that speak to the breadth and depth of the field. And what I mean by that is sessions across disciplines or in adjacent fields that might be of interest to conference goers. Also, we encourage sessions that go beyond sort of surface levels and 101s, knowing that a large constituency of those folks that do attend the conference tend to be a little further into their careers and are really looking to sink their teeth into something and take some tangible learning back into their work. I will say also, a reason we submit an RFP is although the Roundtable is based in New York City, we welcome presenters and participants from across the country and across the world. We've been so excited over the past few years to host presenters from as far away as New Zealand, Canada, the UK. And so that's also why we have an RFP, really wanting to be welcoming and extend that invitation across anybody that might be interested. Hey, Kinsey,
Yeah, and
who's eligible to submit?
Yes, to that point, who is eligible to submit? Anyone and everyone is eligible to submit a proposal for the conference, whether you are submitting as an individual presenter by yourself, if you want to get a group of folks in the field together to present together, you can do that as well. You can also be a representative of an organization and do that, present yourself or with your colleagues as well. Everyone is welcome. But to that point, Kim, I'll toss it to you for the next one.
Sure. So can I submit more than once? So this is new this year. Each submittable account is limited to submitting one proposal for face-to-face 2025. So what that means, an organization is able to submit multiple proposals, but the primary presenter for that proposal must be different. I will say something to keep in mind as you are thinking about what you might propose. It is the conference's policy that individuals and organizations can only present one session at face-to-face. And this policy exists to increase the range and diversity of conference presenters and to provide more equitable opportunities to applicants across the field. So with that, we encourage you to talk to your colleagues to see if they are planning to apply. Important note to this, we know that we have teaching artists likely that are here and that are going to apply who might work for multiple organizations. And that is okay and encouraged. And so if you are applying as an individual teaching artist, it is okay if one of the organizations that you happen to work for submits a proposal. And if both of you are accepted, that is totally fine. Both can present. However, the sort of nuance of that is that we ask that the teaching artist is not presenting necessarily under the header of working for that organization, but more so as an individual. Great. And our next question is similarly along the lines of presenters is, do I need to know all presenter information before submitting? Ideally, yes. While you can submit an application without those details, it may affect the chance of your application being accepted. As we'll see in the rubric later in the presentation, this information is used to determine scores per proposals. So if you don't have specifics, please, we ask that you share everything that you can about the co-presenters that you plan to invite. And a strong application is one that has all of this information completed and included.
Thanks, Kim. All right, moving on. How are selections made? So a majority of the sessions presented at face-to-face are selected through this request for proposals process. So proposed sessions will be reviewed by Roundtable staff and a review committee that will consist of 8 to 12 arts education practitioners who represent multiple different careers, organizations, disciplines, and tenures in the field of arts education. And we will go through the application, and after that, we will go through the rubric that they are using to score these applications. But basically, they will be each application will be randomly assigned to 2 reviewers. Those 2 reviewers will use the rubric to read through the application and give it a score. Then we will use those scores to begin to rank applications, at which point we will meet with the full review committee to discuss all of the applications. So they'll have a chance to share more in depth about the review that they gave, that we can ask questions as other reviewers, and through that process, selections will be made. And our last question is, will accepted presenters be paid?
Yes, so each presenter will receive a $100 honorarium as well as free admission to the full conference. That includes both virtual and in-person conference. Please note that that admission is non-transferable and we are unable to fund travel or accommodations at this time. An important piece as well in terms of how selections are made, just to note that the conference committee is very intentional about identifying gaps in topics or art forms based on the proposals received, and also keeping in mind sort of current events and what might be unfolding in our world, and may also engage in some active curation with the roundtable staff as needed beyond the proposal process.
Thank you, Kim. I realized that I skipped that, so thanks for going back. And
You're
I just,
good.
for reference, if it's helpful, last year we received a total of 74 proposals through the RFP process, and we accepted 26. So that gives you kind of an idea of how many we're going to have space for this year. Okay. We're going to now take some time to walk through our application. So I'm going to exit this presentation and move us to the submittable platform. If you haven't used it before, this is the Roundtable's submittable page. As you can see, we have a couple of things listed here, but you're going to navigate to this page and click Submit for the Face-to-Face 2025 request for proposals. This is what the application itself will look like. So you have sort of a lot of the information listed here that we've already just run through, including the timeline, links to documents that might help you submit your application, and other information. It's first going to ask you to confirm your address. And as you save your address and continue, you will make it to the application itself. So we're just going to briefly walk through these. Oh, well, now I need to re-sign in again. So let me do that really quick. There we go. Okay. We're going to briefly walk through these questions. Before we start looking at specific things, I have some notes. The first question that we get a lot about submittable is, can I save my application? And yes, you can. Let me see if we can see it here. So you can, as we go down to the very end of the application, you see you can save your draft there. I do recommend clicking that button often. But another strategy that we find really helpful for folks is to click this link here to access a Google Doc that has all of the applications listed. Once you do that, you'll see instructions on the Google Doc itself right here, notifying you, number one, that this is not the application itself. So we will not be accepting Google Doc applications. However, you can go to File and make a copy, and you can create your own sort of working document to answer these longer format questions. Prepare your answers, and it will be saved and safe so that when you are ready to start inputting answers into the submittable account, if something were to go wrong, if your internet were to freeze or something like that, and you didn't save that draft, you still have your answers prepared, and you can just go back in and copy and paste. So highly, highly recommend doing it that way. Okay, so proposer information is part number one. So we'll just need the person submitting the proposal, their information, first and last name, their email address. We request the session title. I'm going to go back to our presentation quickly for session titles. So here are some examples of successful session titles in the green block here that we have had in the past. So one was Managing Out, Strategies for Successful Collaboration. Another example is Sharing the Stage, Collaborating with People with Developmental Disabilities. And a third session was Community Building Through Anti-Racist Practices. And we selected these three as examples to kind of show you some neat, clear, concise titles that really did a great job of it showing the reader and the folks who have attended the conference what to expect in their session. So that's what we really suggest when you're thinking about your session title. You want it to be clear and concise, but very well communicate the content of your session. And then in the red box here, we have some examples that aren't as successful. So for example, art therapy with students or creative entrepreneurship are really quite vague, and they don't show you as the reader what really the session content is. And then the third one is my favorite, which is Moving Free, Effective Techniques for Classroom Management and Transitions Using Movement Techniques Rooted in Tai Chi, Wing Chun, and Other Martial Arts as Taught by Bruce Lee. That session sounds amazing. I want to go to it, but it is incredibly long, and there's also some repetition. So just keep those things in mind as you are selecting your session title. Okay, let me escape this and go back. After you share your session title, we'll ask you to select your session format. Depending on what you select here, panel or workshop, it will populate the application in a different way. So if you log on to this page and you just kind of want to review the application before filling it out, make sure that you click whether or not you're doing a panel or workshop. We're going to select panel right now, but I'll walk you through that as we go. So there's some logic to the page that kind of changes the application depending on what you are applying to present. So for a panel, we describe that as a discussion format consisting of a moderator and up to 3 panelists who give brief presentations and or engage in conversation on one topic from multiple points of view. The other option is a workshop, which is also 90 minutes, and we describe that as a session with no more than 2 facilitators in which participants explore specific techniques, strategies, or approaches to arts-related teaching and learning or other topics. We consider workshops to be more active and engaging in that way. You'll also be invited to select whether you want to present online or in person, or if it doesn't matter to you, you can select either. We also ask that you, just making sure I'm not skipping anything. Okay, I'm not. Share the session attendee intended experience level. So is your session really geared towards folks in their early career or in their beginner stages? Is it better for advanced to mid-career to senior level folks? Or is it really open to all levels? So we do have notes here throughout the application. Please be specific in selecting your intended audience experience level for your session, because this information may be included in our program to help people determine which sessions they would like to go to. Similarly, we'd like to hear about your intended audience, and you can check all that apply here. But again, specificity is really helpful to our reviewers and to the attendees. We also request that you share art form addressed. If you're not addressing an art form, you can select general, no specific art form addressed in session content. There's also some notes here about making that selection. We'd like to know if your session happens to address a specific age range, for example, seniors or kids in high school. If not, you can also select general, no specific age range addressed in the session content. And we also ask you to select a maximum of 2 options here for your session focus. So those choices are professional development, curriculum development, topics in arts administration and management, community engagement, working with diverse populations, equity, diversity, and inclusion, advocacy, or other. And if you click other, you have the option to outline that as well. But really, what I want to reiterate in answering these questions is specificity is key. So it doesn't necessarily benefit you to have your session say that it's open to everyone, general, no art form addressed, especially if your expertise and what you'd like to share in that session is really geared toward a specific population or intended audience. It's just really helpful to have that specificity for our reviewers to get a really clear scope of your session and what you intend to do, and also extremely helpful for attendees when they are reading the program to determine which session they would like to go to. So as Kim shared, our audience is vast. We try to provide things that are interesting for them at the conference, that speak to many different levels, disciplines, audiences. So specificity in your session is really helpful to us, and we are interested in kind of, offering those types of things that may be for specific audiences. I'm going to pause there. I saw some chat lighting up,
Oh
but I
yeah,
haven't been able
Kinsey,
to read it.
we will be able to loop back to those chat questions, I
Okay,
think,
great,
at the
great.
end.
Then I'll toss it to you, Kim.
Perfect. And please do, I appreciate questions coming through. Continue to put those in the chat and we can loop back either about them in the moment or at the end. So now digging into really the meat of the application is our focused question. So this is the critical challenge or issue that participants will investigate during your session. We encourage you keep it brief, clear, concise, and also practical, given that this is a what will surmount to usually an 80-minute session or so. Then the next part is the outline. This has a 500-word limit, so be mindful of that as you're crafting the outline for this session. We do encourage a lesson plan format, and bullet points are accepted. And this is really a scaffolded breakdown of the scheduled activities or events, including a time expected for each of the activities and planned reflection strategies. So while a session is expected to run for 90 minutes, we always encourage presenters to plan for 80 minutes. That you never know, you might end up starting a little late. You might really get into a deep conversation with the group that you want to give more space for. Or you might need a moment just to pause, have a technology glitch, who knows? But that's why we always encourage plan for the 80 minutes. That way you have some wiggle room. We also encourage you to help our evaluators as well by defining any terms that might not be self-evident to somebody who is not a practitioner of your particular art form or practice. This is really your section to give us a clear picture of what's going to be taking place in your session from start to finish. And we find that it's really one of the most important aspects of the application. And so a piece of advice that I like to give folks submitting an RFP is do not oversimplify what you're sharing. Sometimes folks will list warm up, main activity, reflection. We're really looking for you to go into some further detail and explanation, and that ultimately makes for a stronger application. Going on to the next part, as we sort of go into the final stages of this section, are outcomes. So what will attendees gain, learn, or be able to do after attending this session? This has a 100-word maximum. And so again, keep it clear, keep it concise. Participants will ... And we always, you'll hear us say time and time again, we love tangible, turnkey takeaways. So we find that the #1 piece of feedback we get, that people really respond to sessions where they can take the learning that they gleaned from the session and directly apply it and immediately apply it to their work. So really be mindful in terms of what you expect folks to walk away from your session having learned or being able to do. And so the last part of this section is a summary. And so this is a session summary that would be included in the conference program if your session was accepted. We strongly encourage write for publication, not only in the conference program, but in the website. This gives conference attendees a clear picture of what they can expect in your session, in addition to whether they should expect to be ready to be on their feet. This is really how attendees will decide if that's a session that they would like to attend. And so we encourage you to sort of have that in mind. We always encourage folks to judge and make sure it's something that might be not only descriptive of what's going to be happening, but eye-catching to potential participants. This summary, if accepted, there is time built into our conference timeline for you to make edits, not only to this session summary, but also going back to Francis's question earlier, for you to make edits to your session title as well. So I would think about this in relation to your title and to your presenters. So for example, if the title is Sharing the Stage, Collaborating with People with Developmental Disabilities, the description shouldn't be, in this panel presentation, participants will learn to collaborate with people with developmental disabilities. It should add something and work in tandem with your title. So for example, that title is one that we presented at the conference recently. The description that went along with it is CoLab Sharing the Stage Workshop is an opportunity to learn more strategies for working with people who have developmental disabilities, whether it's in the classroom, office, or community setting, led by 2 CoLab teaching artists and 2 CoLab leaders who are longtime participants and disability self-advocates. This workshop will equip participants to question norms in their organizations, as well as create and sustain more inclusive spaces. I can paste that in the chat as well, because I know I am a more visual processor of information. And so
Yeah, I
really,
think
yeah, go ahead, Kinsey. What were you going to say?
it just had a thought that folks could also visit the face-to-face conference website if you want some more examples of session titles and descriptions. You'll be able to see if you click schedule and then click, I think, previous events because they've all passed, you can see the entire schedule of conference sessions from 2024. So that'll give you a little bit more stuff to work from and consider.
Good. So I think we can then go into our final section.
Great. So this final piece is presenter information. Like I said earlier, I clicked panel instead of workshop. So we're seeing the panelist presenter information section here. It's almost identical to the workshop. However, as you can see here, per conference policy, workshops are limited to 2 presenters. Panels are limited to a total of 4 presenters. That includes the moderator. So there's just a little bit more to fill out here as a panelist, but we still collect the same information for all presenters. So we will need the lead presenter or the moderator's first and last name, their title, organization or affiliation, their contact information. We're also requesting a bio and a resume or CV for each presenter. That just helps with our rubric. We'll look at that. It helps us just get a clear picture of who is going to be presenting at the conference, their expertise, and if it ties to what the session is going to be about. So then we have more space here to include the panelists' names. We have up to 3 panelists. You can include their information here. We also want their titles, organizations and affiliations, contact information, bios and CVs. I know it's a lot of information to collect, which is why you want to start on that early, especially if you're presenting or if you are proposing a session with panelists or more than one presenter. And I think a frequent question that we also get, as Kim noted, we talked about already, is do I need to have all of that to submit my proposal? And as Kim noted, ideally, yes. If you don't have it, you can still submit your proposal, but a stronger application will have all of this information included. And then moving on to the final part is our session proposers agreements. So I'll just quickly go through these. We will need folks to agree to all of these items before being able to submit their application. So number 1 is that you agree to notify Roundtable staff immediately if you're not able to present your session on the day and time that is assigned. When folks receive their notification by December 16th, they will receive a date and time that their session is scheduled for. So once you receive that, if it doesn't work with your schedule, please just let us know. In the case of a conflict, we will make our very best efforts to accommodate you, although we can't guarantee that a change can be made, but in the past, we've always been successful at working something out. You also agree that one representative from your session will attend a mandatory virtual presenter orientation on either Monday, January 13th from 4 to 6 or Wednesday, January 15th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. These are all Eastern times. This session will allow time to revisit your proposal, discuss its content with fellow presenters, and just kind of, rethink things, since it will have been some time since you submitted the first draft. And lead presenters who cannot attend may send a co-presenter. We just need one representative from each session. Your session's lead facilitator agrees to inform your co-presenters of all expectations and deadlines provided by Roundtable staff as the primary contact for the session proposal. You agree to respond in a timely fashion to Roundtable staff's correspondence regarding technical needs. Any special requests must be conveyed to the Roundtable staff well in advance of the conference, but no later than the deadline stipulated. And once folks are accepted to the conference, during that orientation, we will go over ways to communicate your technical needs and requests and the deadlines for receiving those as well. You also agree to meet with your co-presenters in advance of the conference to provide overall guidance on session organization, content, expectations, handouts, and learning objectives as the primary contact for your session. And then for in-person sessions only, due to materials restrictions that are requested by the venue, we cannot have paints, glitter, or other materials that may stain the floor or furniture. They may not be used during any art making sessions or in-person events. So you just agree to those limitations as well. And then you can submit is the full application. Just making sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay. All right, taking a breath, moving on. I'm not gonna make this slideshow big because I'm gonna click into this link, but the next thing that we'll just briefly look at is the rubric. So as we were discussing, we will have a committee of folks that will be reviewing these sessions, and this is the rubric that they go by. I'm not gonna read absolutely everything here, but just know that you will have access to this as well, because we will send a follow-up email with this slide deck that has this linked in it. So we have, I believe, 5 total questions here for our reviewers that will apply to each application, and they can score anywhere from a 1 to a 5 on each of these questions. So the first section is the clarity and strength of your focus question. So they can rate you from a 1 unsatisfactory to a 5 exemplary, and it's very clearly outlined here what will rate each number. So I highly recommend reviewing this before submitting, and they will reference your session focus and your focus question that you list in the application to do this first scoring. Our second category is clarity and depth of session outline. So as Kim was saying, we like a lesson plan format. Bullet points are welcome. We do want some specificity here. And we have also a 1 to 5 there, scoring from unsatisfactory to exemplary. So you can reference what you need to score on those as well. And the reviewers will strictly be looking at your outline to score this section. Our third section is clarity and strength of intended outcomes and takeaways. So again, they will be referencing specifically that outcomes section and what you say attendees will be taking away. That can also score a 1 to 5. Then our fourth is demonstrated evidence of experience in arts education and depth of understanding of proposed session topic. This is where that presenter information really comes in. This is why we ask for bios and CVs or resumes. This is also why it can really affect your application if you don't share all of your presenter information, because then your reviewer doesn't have sufficient information to answer this question fully. So while you may have an above average or exemplary score here with the folks that you are bringing in, if they don't have that information and can't see their bios and resumes, it can really affect your application. So that's what folks will be referencing when they review for this section: the presenter panelist resumes, CVs, bios, and then also the overall session proposal. And then last is the overall priority for being accepted to present. This is a 1 to 5. that folks get to answer as well. And yeah, highly recommend considering this, just walking through your application before you submit it and scoring yourself and see how you do there. It's a very helpful tool. Okay, if Kim doesn't have anything to add, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we can go to questions.
No, I think, Kinsey, you're welcome maybe to unspotlight us. I've been collecting some questions in the chat and appreciate everybody's patience. We'll go through some of these questions first, and then we encourage you to either, if you'd like to come off mute, raise a virtual hand, raise a physical hand. That way we can just make sure there's one mic at a time so that we can best hear any questions that are posed. So going through some of the questions we've received so far that we were not able to answer, can we apply to moderate a panel and facilitate a workshop? Or does the different submittable amount different lead apply there too? So the answer is while you can be a part of applications for both a panel and a workshop, we have a rule as part of face-to-face that individuals are only able to be part of one presentation, whether that be a panel or a workshop. So if you are the lead facilitator and submitter for a workshop and you happen to be participating on a panel that somebody else is submitting a proposal for, please note that both of those sessions in that format are not able to be accepted, that we ask that each individual only participates as a presenter facilitator in one session. Is that clear to whomever posed that question? Yes, great. Is there room for title tweaks? I think we were able to circle back to this, but yes. So we have built that in as part of our conference onboarding process, and which is part of the reason why we do a presenter orientation, is that is a chance for you to share about your session topic. We have a really great sort of feedback activity that we've been facilitating for the past few years that puts you in conversation with other presenters and gives you space and time to actually think about your session and get some feedback from other folks within the field as well. And so we do find after presenter orientation, folks might be thinking about their session in a new way. And so that's why we build that time in. There are deadlines that are articulated around that so that we're then able to meet our printing deadlines and everything to have all conference materials ready for the big April days. Let's see, Kinsey, I'll take this next question, and then if you want to maybe take the other two. So the question was, on the slide that was shared, the first title seemed a little bit vague. Can you please say more about why you feel that this is a strong title? So I will say that it is a subjective. It is something that's subjective and up for opinion. We felt that that title was eye-catching, that we were able to understand that it was around collaboration, it had to do with management, and that in contrast with the session explanation that was offered really made for a strong overall sort of description of what we could expect within the session. Kinsey, tossing it to you, and then we'll open it up to the floor.
Great. I believe the next question is, in the panel format, do the panelists also receive an honorarium and conference attendance? And the answer is yes. Anyone who is accepted as a presenter for the conference will receive that honorarium of $100 as well as full attendance to the conference. All right. And then I see.
Oh, we actually might have done that already.
What?
The moderate a panel and facilitate a workshop.
That's correct. There's a different submittal amount. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Wonderful.
That is correct. Let's see. Mia says, is there acceptable supplies that can be used for a workshop session? For example, are jewelry making supplies allowed? Great question. Yes. There are many different supplies that are acceptable to be used during workshops. In fact, we love having art making workshops and hands-on workshops at the conference. The only caveat I would say is really things that can damage the floor in particular, or any of the venue space that we are using. So that's why we say things like glitter and paint are a no. We prefer no glue. We do use glue sticks, but liquid glue is, we prefer not to use it. But we can definitely work with you to um, find out the right types of materials that can be used, and we also often provide those materials as well. So, for example, we had a workshop this last year with Studio in a School, and they needed a lot of materials. We ended up providing multiple different types of paper, buttons. There were glue sticks as well, pipe cleaners, all kinds of really fun stuff. We also had a monuments making workshop that had very similar materials needs as well. They even used Play-Doh, which we were nervous about, but we were able to pivot and protect surfaces for that as well. So I would say, knowing that, definitely go for what your vision is. And if we need to scale it back or pivot in some way, that's really where we build in the time after the orientation to receive your materials list and then meet with you and chat through things if something isn't going to work or if we need to make a change.
Great. Before going to questions in the chat, give space. If anybody wants to come off mute, ask a question. If not, we'll go to the next question in the chat. Kinsey, what is it?
Yeah. Hi, Sato. Is it okay tuning small sounds music during the workshop? And we will have free Wi-Fi at the session. And yes, we've had music sessions before. We had a whole drummer session with, I think they brought in 30 drums this last year, which was amazing. So we just need to know ahead of time. We'll talk through the venue logistics with folks, but we also had a DJ session planned this last year as well. So sound is okay. We just try to make sure we put you in the right space for that you don't disturb other sessions, and that you can, play to your heart's content.
Perfect. And I think I saw Susie, you unmute. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. So we presented last year, and we've devised a workshop that will be on a totally different subject matter, and will offer different kinds of hands-on theater and writing exercises. However, we do have, like a process that we use. So when we scaffolded the lesson plan, it looks a bit similar only because it has a similar process. And I'm wondering if that will ding us, like will our proposal for this year be compared to the proposal for last year? And will the adjudicators say, well, even though it's on a different topic, they're offering a similar process?
Yeah, I think what I would say to that point is if you're able within the outline to maybe sort of highlight ways in which that it might depart from the previous session. We tend to look at sessions in isolation, but we also try not to have an exact same session happen from year to year. I will say that we also look at what you're presenting, not only within the context of the outline that you provide, but also the focus question, the outcomes that are expected in addition to the title and summary, which I imagine will then definitely depart from the session that was presented last year. I will say the reviewers as well are not necessarily the same ones that reviewed the sessions last year as well. So I would say as much as you could just make it clear that this is not the same session. And then of course we can follow up afterwards if there are any questions that are more specific as well to the session.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Great. I see Tara in the chat asked, are there screens we can use for images and PowerPoint slides? Yes. The classrooms that we rent from City College do all have screen and Wi-Fi capabilities, so you will be able to present. They will also have speakers, so you'll be able to play any music or videos that you need as well. The speakers are connected to that presentation system. If you are doing some sort of music session that requires, for example, we had a Kathak and Indian dance session this last year that they wanted a different speaker setup, we'll need to know that ahead of time and see if we need to rent something or if what's in the classroom will do. But otherwise, yes, everyone will have access to those materials in their rooms, regardless of which they're in.
I'll also say, just in terms of technology availability, the tech setup in each classroom space is such that it typically requires an outside laptop to be plugged into to have any sort of projection. The Roundtable does provide laptops in all of the spaces. However, we also encourage you, if you'd like to use your own, you're welcome to do so. We also encourage everybody should have backups on backups of presentation materials, but that's something that we get further into once sessions are accepted. But please know that is also a part of ways that we support the session as well. Right. So I think then on that note, we can probably transition to our final slide with some last reminders. As Kinsey, you pull that up, I will say this is not the last time that you can ask us questions as you are preparing your materials from now through our application deadline of September 26th. If something comes to mind, please do not hesitate to reach out. Kinsey Keck, who is our incredible programs director and oversees our face-to-face conference, is the person to best reach out to. Her email can be found on this slide. She's also the incredible person that has been emailing you, likely before this session as well. Her email is kkeck@nycaieroundtable.org. In addition, if for whatever reason you'd like to also reach out to me, I can put my email in the chat. And also these emails are found on our website as well. Some final date reminders. Again, the application deadline is Thursday, September 26th at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. We will not be extending the deadline. We will not be able to accept applications after that fact. So please plan accordingly. Applicants then will be notified by Monday, December 16th, about the status of their application. So you can expect to receive that via an email that's likely goes through Submittable by that point. Then important dates just to keep in mind for the conference, if accepted, presenter orientation. At least one representative of your session is required to attend one of the presenter orientations on either Monday, January 13th from 4 to 6, or Wednesday, January 15th from 10 to 12. These are via Zoom. And then the conference itself is in April. We're going to start off with a week of virtual programming from April 7th through the 11th. And then our in-person dates are April 16th and 17th at the City College of New York at Shepard Hall. So with that, a huge thank you to everybody who joined us. We'll stay on for the next few minutes as well if folks have any lingering questions. Otherwise, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and we can't wait to not only read your applications, but hopefully see you at face-to-face as well. So thanks so much, everybody.